So with this, I believe that fixes our issue. Let's refresh here. Let's investigate this. Did that not recompile? Do I have that wrong? I saved this. But if we look, it's still stuck at 250 pixels. It's not using my CSS variable. So let's go take a look at Tailwind and arbitrary values. CSS variables. Got the color primary. That's not it. There's a way to use arbitrary values in Tailwind classes. Tailwind class CSS variables. So no. Okay, so we do have to add the var. Is it in here? Arbitrary properties, mask type alpha, scroll offset. See, here we're just using, we aren't using the variables themselves. Hello world. Okay, no, we do need to use the var. So we do need to surround these with var. And that is a huge popover. What I can do is, instead of doing that, let's just duplicate it, add my var. And there we go. So now it should be using the CSS var. So now if we go back to our browser, we look at the image. Well, we can already see it's not shrinking the image. And we can see in the CSS here, I pull this out, that now it's using the var image. And what this does is it sets the max width to be the image size, right? And we're pulling that image size based on the input or the CSS variable from the component. So the next thing we can do is right here, we can just say, hey, this is var, and we can say this is image dash size. And that's going to set up our column to have the first column be the same size as this image. But now we're eating up almost all of our space here, right? Because we're 250 pixels, but we only want a max width of maybe 25% of 320, right? So here it looks horrible, here it looks horrible, here it looks horrible, and here it's not as bad, but it could be better, right? But here it's terrible. We're not getting any content. And so it would be nice to lay this out so that the image and the title are up in the top corner, and then any information about it is below it. So how do we do that, right? Well, the first thing we can do is we can just say, hey, here at 250 pixels, we're good. We're not good. So we probably want like something like 80 pixels at the smaller end. And so that looks better. But then as we get to our larger sizes, things are going to look really bad, right? Because here we look terrible. So what do we do, right? We can use the media queries again. So if we go back to Tailwind and screen sizes, larger breakpoints, smaller breakpoints, custom screen names. There's a way to query this in there's a way to query this in the CSS. Accent, color, resize, SVG, accessibility. Oh, they've got will change. That's nice. Let's see if I search CSS files. File name, content configuration, pattern recognition. What I don't want to do is add this to the theme itself. But I believe there's a way, because there's like the add apply, and maybe that's the place I need to look. Add apply. So there are a few loops, extracting components and partials. So it's exposing source image, alt. Oh, interesting. But I just want to grab that breakpoint, and if it's above that breakpoint, we change it to 250. If it's below that breakpoint, we leave it as 80. That's fine. Functions and directives. So the layer is the bucket. Yep. Apply to apply. Yeah. There's the theme, and that's the that's what I'm wondering if we need to use. At config functions, so there's the theme function, and that allows us to grab themes, colors from the theme. Oh, there it is, screen. That's the one I'm looking for. So we can come back here, and we can say, so we can use this screen function from Tailwind with our media query. So we can say, here we can say at media, then we can say screen, and the screen size we're using, we look up here, is, well, it was medium, right? Was it medium? It's in the container. Yeah, it's medium. So at that breakpoint, then we want to set our image size to be 250 pixels. So there we go. It doesn't like, oh, never mind. It just caught up. So now if we go and recompile, we should see that at this size, we're at 250 pixels. And then as we drop here, we get the 80 pixels. And so we can get off of this, right? Oh, I've got the grid turned on, that's why. So now we can see that at this size, we get 80 pixels, and as we grow, then it changes. But this now causes some problems with the rest of our responsive design, because if we look at the grid, our grid, right, this image is overflowing our grid. What would be nice is to have our grid cut in here at the bottom. So we can change our grid layout too. And that's the other way to look at this. I'm still getting, oh, that's been full. No, it's still saying right now. Wonder what's going on. Like, it's really strange. Maybe I'm gonna need to look at this. But there's some weirdness going on there with the YouTube stream. And if I go look here, go to live. It doesn't look bad. Okay. Sorry about that. Just getting some notifications. Hey, things aren't working well. But it looks like they are, so we'll be good. So it would be nice to change the layout of this grid. And that's why we chose a grid for this. So the image could change where it lives. So we can change that. If we go take a look at the grid for this, we've got our class grid, right? And our default grid is, image size in 1 fraction, and then min content in 1 fraction. But up here, we've got our row span 2. We don't want that anymore. We want a medium row span 2. And here on this div, this is the one where we want to call span 2. At small sizes, and then once we get to the medium size, we want a call span of 1. And so this is going to allow us to I'm wondering, should we do it this way, or should we do it differently? There's this notion of grid templates areas, and with grid template areas, we can do image and then title, right? And then the next thing we can do is image and content. Oops, let's do this with spaces instead of tabs. So now if we line this up, this div will give the class of, we'll give this class the, we'll give this the image class here. And then here, this can be the, well, this can be article title. And so we can do, we don't need the article title. We can just do this, right? There's our article title, there's our title. And then there's one more div. And for this one, we're just going to give it class equals, we'll do bg-secondary. And we'll also give this the class of content, just so that we can see it. So there we go. So now that we've added this, and then we use the grid template areas, and the grid template areas allow us to set things up. So we should be able to see I need to set up the class to tell it which areas we fit into, because now we've got a big mess, right? So you can still leave this as article title. I don't care. So here, dot image. And so now we have to say grid area is image, yep. And then we can also say title, and then the grid area is title, and then content, and grid area is content. And so this image now goes to the grid content area that we set up. And so now if we go back and look, so at this larger size, we can see that the image fits here, and then the article text will go here, like the abstract, right? As we get into a smaller size, it's still there, but we want to change this. So how do we change this so that the abstract comes across and the image, the image and the title are at the top? And we can do that by changing this to be content down here. And again, we're going to use the screen media size, right? And so at this size, we're going to say the grid template areas. And it's going to copy them in, right? But we can say that at the larger size, we want image that. And we may have to move some stuff around. But so now at the smaller size, we can see that we get, the title and the image are at the top, and then the abstract will be at the bottom. As we get to the larger size, then we go back to where the image is on the right-hand side, and then the title and the abstract. And so, we can control very nicely where we do things because we're using a grid layout. And it winds up being very, very helpful to us in these cases. So the next question is, what do we do next? We need to clean up the spacing on these two things here. So if we go look here on the title, so we've got a padding left of 0. We don't want that anymore. Now we want padding all around. And the same here, we just want the P2. And that's going to give us consistent padding between the image and whatever else we've got going on. So now if we can see that it pulled the title off the side, and we've got consistent padding across both sides. As we go larger, we're getting better. What do we want to call it? Better spacing, better consistency, better padding. This height might be too. One thing that would be nice is to have this placement inside of the grid be more centered, or even baseline, so it's down below. But do we want to do that is another question. Because we're eating up a lot of space here for this image, and the image looks good here. But once we get it to smaller sizes, it starts to look, it's eating up a lot of space that we could be using for the abstract here, right? And it makes the title look weird and just stuff like that. What we could do is instead, we could change this to just be a 1 fraction column. And then we've got our 2 rows, and then this just becomes title and content. Image, title. So now if we go take a look, how did I mess things up? Oh yeah, I'm making a mess here because we're still showing the image. And this is where so we could do, there are libraries to do media queries. So this image div is our problem. And we can say here that we want it to be invisible, right? And then at medium, we can say we want it visible. But there's an issue with that. Why do we have two columns here? Oh, because it's still display none. So if we look, we inspect this, the div is still here. So here's our main article. And within our main article, we can still see that this div is still here, right? If we delete this element, then that's the way that it would look. To do that, and really, if we remove that at smaller screen size, the other thing that's an issue is that even if we fix it, right, with a display none or something like that, well, it is display none, but even if we remove it, or even if we were to get it out of the grid, it's still going to cause issues because we're still having people download this image when they don't need it. And that's an issue too, right? We don't want people downloading this image on their phones because, you know, they're paying for mobile data and stuff like that. And if we're not going to show it and having them download it when we aren't showing it, that's a bad user experience. There was something a little while ago where we could listen to media queries with Angular. Let's see, Angular listen to media queries. And so media matcher service. So I think this is, so from the Angular CDK, a breakpoint observer. This might be what I read. Body. So we get the breakpoints, implementing the directive. Media query list. What is match media? Where does that match media come from? I don't think this is the one we want, but it's close. How long ago was this one written? Yeah, 2023. No. Let's go look at the Angular blog. Because what I'm thinking of came along with so if we go look at 2023, 17, 16, I think it came in 15. There's 17, there's 16, Angular Dev, Control Flow. I think it came server-side rendering, incremental static regeneration. Is Angular 15 really in 2022? Wow. I guess they're only doing like 2 a year, right? Just seems crazy that we got. So inside of here, standalone APIs are now out of developer preview. Directive composition, which was awesome. Image directive is now stable. Functional router guards. Better stack traces. MDC-based components. Range selection slider. These are all Angular stuff, or Angular material stuff. CLI improvements. Default options for type. Nope, that's not what we're looking for. Go back. Was it in 14? Angular standalone components. Typed Angular forms. Streamlined best practices. Page title. Developer diagnostics. Nullish coalescing. Tree shakeable error messages. Bind to protected. Oh, that was so nice that you could start marking things as protected. New primitives in the Angular CDK. The menu. Get harnesser null and test harnessing. Is it 16 that we're looking at? Now we need to go 2023. $16. And we'll pop that out. So here we got signals, RxJS interop, server-side hydration and rendering, standalone components. There's a whole discussion about it on Twitter. Required inputs. It might be here. Passing router data as component inputs. Inline styles. On destroy. Self-closing tags. Really, it was 16 when we got self-closing tags. Better and more flexible components. There's a way. Media queries with RxJS. But there was something added well, it wasn't added. It was just better exposed, and I can't remember what it's called. But it's exactly what we're looking for right now. Size detector. After viewing it, text screen size. You know what? Let's just go look at the CDK, right? So material.angular.io. Oh, and I was in the wrong spot. So in the CDK, some observers. When the host content changes, scrolling portal, it's just an output platform, a set of utilities that gather information about the current platform. Overlay. No, we don't want an overlay. Observe content. Dialog drag and drop layout. Breakpoint observer. This is what we're looking for. So the breakpoint observer. Small, medium, large. Don't have a 768 in here, but we can listen to that, right? Match media method can be used to get a native media query list. Really? Query selector, window.match media. So it looks like it's just a wrapper around the match media. Interesting. But I think what we could do is use a breakpoint observer. So we'll need to install the Angular CDK layout. And we can check if we can start observing, right? Yeah, that's probably the way that we want to do this. And so if I look, layout package, this is the latest version. If we go back to the CDK, guides, I want to know if I need to install the entire CDK. Probably. We go look at the guides. Theming, customizing. Install Angular CDK. So here we are. We're looking at Angular material. We can go look here. Inside of components. So yeah, it looks like it's the entire CDK. So we'll add the CDK. Go ahead and break out of here. Just do a pnpm install at angular/cdk. Yeah. It looks like I need to upgrade my pnpm, so we'll do that too after this is done. I don't remember if there's anything I don't remember if there's anything special we need to do for the CDK. Oh, I also need to Volta install npm because we're using Volta. Volta needs to know where it is. 8.15.4. Just checking chat and just making sure everything looks okay. It is so weird. We're getting weird keyframes like that. I don't know what's going on with that. So now we've got the Angular CDK. So now what we probably want to do, because we don't want to add the observer here, we want to be able to use it anywhere. Let's create a service that wraps this observable, right? So inside of here, we've got our app, data access, we've got our pages. For now, we'll just add a new services folder. Services. And inside of here, we will next generate a service. Oh, that's interesting. That's a new method or a new message that they recommend. That's fine. We'll do that. I didn't create a new branch for today, did I? No, we're still in the February 29th branch. That's okay. If I pull this, I haven't committed anything. So there is, have I not merged this branch? Interesting. I guess I didn't do that last time. So let's go ahead and go merge that. So Angular blog. So inside of here, look at pull requests, and we'll create a new pull request. The base is that, and then grab the 29th stream, create our pull request, create our pull request from that stream. Confirm that merge, and then we can grab this. There we go. So now we've done that. Now I can go ahead and grab this. Now we should be able to fast forward, and they should be meeting here. Yep. Which means that now I can make a new branch. We can swap over here and delete this one. And we can branch, and today is, what is today? The 3rd? Yep, the 3rd. Stream March 3rd, 2024. There we go. And now we can commit into here. So styling fixes for main article component. Main article component. There we go. We're good there. And then we'll push that up just so that it exists in multiple places. And now we're in a good place. So this, we'll call this the breakpoint service. And we don't need to add service to it, right? Because it's going to add it already. And I make this mistake a lot, right? Where I'll call it breakpoint service, and then it will be breakpoint service, and nobody wants that. So it's going to add it to our Angular blog source, Angular blog source, services, breakpoint service. Perfect. I'm good with that. Yeah, flat is fine. And skip tests. So that is good. We should generate this. And now we've got our service. So now we can close this and open our breakpoint service. And here we go. This is our service that we'll be using. I don't want it provided in root because the big reason for that is that I only want this service available when we inject it. And I want it to go away when we don't want it. So a couple things to be on the lookout for, right? So the first thing we want to do is inject the service, right? So read only, here we can say breakpoints server equals, and here we want to inject the breakpoint observer. We've got that. We've got that. And so now we've got the ability to watch it. So if we go back to our CDK and we look at our layout, go to our API, what we want to do is observe for breakpoint changes. And when those breakpoint changes happen, then we want to be notified about it. Against the current, so is small screen, we can just query for a max width of, and that's probably the way to do it, right? Yeah. So here we can just do read only is small screen, and that's directly from the documentation, but we want to match we look here, our medium size, right? And so we need to go look that up. So let's go look at breakpoints again. So the medium size is 768 pixels. And so we want to set a max width or a max width of 767. So in our breakpoint service, let's add const, and here we can say small screen and here we can say as const. That's fine. So here we'll just say 767, and then we can just observe small screen. So now we've got our breakpoint here with our small screen on it, and we can also just pipe this and tap, and yeah, we can tap it to console log. There we go. And actually, I want to add some logging so that we can watch it. So here, small screen. Small screen. There we go. Now, if we go back, oh, we aren't using this anywhere yet. Wouldn't help. So the main article container inside of here, we want to inject this, right? So we can just say const. How do we want to observe this? Well, for right now, we can just say small screen. Or actually, we can just say breakpoint service equals inject breakpoint service. Great. And then here we can just say breakpoint service. Where does that come from? Because that doesn't. Yeah, we aren't importing it. So import, yep, there we go, breakpoint service dot and I don't have anything. I'm not exposing anything from the service. That's why it's trying to. So the last thing we want to do is expose something that we can actually read. So read only is small screen equals, and here we're just going to do to observable, or from observable, not from observable, is it to signal? To signal. To signal, this dot is small screen, and we'll go ahead and pull in to signal. And now, so within here, in our main article component, just for right now, I just want to console.log, not get breakpoint, is small screen. What did I call it? Is small screen. Is small screen. There we go. Small screen. There we go. All right. Now we've got that in place. So now we can go back to our app that we're not serving because I shut down the serve. pnpm nx serve the blog. And now when we swap, we should see, we should see, ooh. Nested CSS was detected, but CSS nesting has not been configured properly. That's not nesting. What's going on now? We'll take a look at our console. Inject is not defined. Oh, okay. Yeah, we do need to import inject. There we go. That worked. Oh, no provider. Yes. And this is a good thing to recognize, is that we marked our service as just injectable. It needs to be injected somewhere, right? But we haven't injected it anywhere. But luckily, in our defined metadata, we can add our providers array. There we go. So that injects our providers, and now we've got our stuff here, right? So as we go here, so we can see that this change said, hey, we're not small size. This change says we are. And the nice thing about our small screen is that these internal changes don't matter. But as soon as we jump here, we get it, right? So we can, it's as soon as that changes that we actually get the change. So now that we've got our breakpoint service, and now that we've got our is small screen, so our matches is true. So what we want to do is go back to our breakpoint service and pipe this, right? So here we want to pipe and we want to map it. Let's grab our map. RxJS. So here we can say our match. Well, actually, we don't even need to do that. We can just pull out, what is the, oh no. We can look it up on here is matched. No. Matches. So we can just pull out matches here. So if we do that, we can destructure it into matches, and boom, we just return matches. And saving that should. So there we go. So now we're just returning a true or false from the is small screen. So now if we go back and look again, so at the larger screen, we got matches false, but the breakpoint service came out as false, right? And here, oh. Oh, I'm being dumb. Of course, it's only going to log once. It's only going to log the first time through. For it to do more than that, we would need an effect. So there we go. And then here, that, and we can move that into there. There we go. I can't wait for the analog plugin to come out from the WebStorm people. I've seen it. Can't wait for it to happen, right? So now the breakpoint service is there, and then boom, the breakpoint service is now true, right? And we only log when it changes. So, right, we went through a whole bunch of this stuff, but why are we doing it? The first thing we can do is get rid of this logging. And right here on this div, and I about added an ng if. I don't know what I'm thinking. Here, we just want to do an at if. Boom. And boom. There we go. And here we can just say if breakpoint service dot is small screen. No, we don't want that. We want if it's not a small screen. So there we go. So there, you know, we're adding our if here. So at the larger size, we're good, but as we get to the smaller size, now it goes away, right? And we can go look at our network here. And if we refresh this, let's pop this out. We can look at it. So we get a bunch of different chunks, right? A lot of different chunks. But we'll see that there is no request for that image. And then as soon as we jump over the tablet size, we get the request right here for the image. We're now, we're now working, and we aren't using data, and we're now in a mobile position, right? Where if we're at a smaller screen size, we get the title, and then I mean it's going to look very, very similar to these ones on a phone. But you know, as we get to the larger screen sizes, then we're going to start getting some differences. All right. Let's bring this back to the side. Let's clean up some stuff, right? We want to make sure that we clean this stuff up. Yeah. So we can just take out this pipe. We don't need it. That's weird. I thought I had the prettier stuff that would clean that up. Do I have that? If I go to look at the prettier RC, oh, I don't have any add-ins here. There are a couple of prettier plugins that I like to use. So if we go look at dev here, and we go look at Full Stack Dynos probably has it. So if we look at the prettier RC from here, no. That's not it. Thought it was. Angular blog. Did I add it to Angular Sudoku? Let's look at the prettier RC here. Yeah, there we go. These are the two plugins that I like to add to prettier. We can take a look at them. So close that. Go ahead and add them here. And so we've got two plugins. The prettier plugin organize attributes and the prettier plugin organize imports. Organize attributes is really cool. Yeah, we'll look at it on GitHub. So organize attributes does some really cool stuff for us. What it will do is in HTML or things like that, it will organize the attributes. And it's Angular aware. So it will put outputs and inputs together, right? So you can see this is the way it was originally written. But then after running this prettier plugin, you know, we get the simple animation, move to a specific place. The inputs are all together and the outputs, and then so it just styles things, keeps them in the same way so that people get used to looking at them the same way. So to add this one, all we do is we just add it with the save dev. So here we'll go ahead and I wonder if that works with, I think so, because I think PNPM is just a drop-in, yeah. So that's going to add it as a dev dependency. So there we go. And now we've got that one added. So the other one I like to add is this organize imports. And this one was shown to me by Chow. And organize imports just gives you a way to use prettier to add or remove imports. We'll go ahead and copy that one. And here we will paste it. And I think that should be good. So, pnpm nx serve Angular blog. So now we're serving again, but now with these two imports in place, now if we go back here and like say I add tap, not running, reformat with prettier. There we go. Why didn't it run prettier? It's on, actions on save, run prettier. Interesting. I wonder why it didn't run that. If I add it back and save again and do something that prettier, okay. I'm not sure why I didn't add it the first time, but we're in a good place. What doesn't it like about this file? Got something marked in red. It's got a warning. It's not unused. It's definitely used, but it doesn't know. It may not understand analog files when it's doing this analysis. And so that's why it's complaining that it's not used. Yeah, let's And again, it's telling me that I've got nested stuff. I don't. I've got breakpoints, but nothing nested. All right, so it re-rendered at smaller sizes. We're looking good. That's interesting. So at the larger size, it had to pop that in. But now we're able to add and remove DOM elements based on the existence of, or based on the breakpoints. And we can modify that service to be, to be more powerful. One thing that I don't think it could do is container queries. I'm not going to worry about that until we get to a need for container queries. Just making sure that everything still looks good. Yep, we're looking good. We'll stay dark because that's much more friendly on people's eyes. So we need to style this. And for now, we're going to hard code it. So I want to get the skeleton laid out and all hard coded so that we can get it all looking good. Then we'll move it into services or something. And then once that's in place, we'll start looking at using something like Contentful to, give us our images and all of that stuff. So how do we want to? So we need to add this in here. I think we should add the date when it was written, and then just a blurb about. For now, we're just going to use lorem ipsum for that. but we're just going to do const. And actually, what we want to do is create a model for this. So yeah. So inside of here, let's create a new directory. We'll call it models. So the reason I'm putting it here is that these models should be specific to articles. And so within here, we're going to add a new file. This will be a TypeScript file, but this will be our article.model.ts. So here we go. Inside of here, we're going to export our type. This is our article. Yeah, we'll call it an article model. And for right now, really, yeah, we'll have a title. That will be a string. And then we will have content. It is a string. And then, yeah, date. But this, we want it to be a date. So there we go. Hey, Maritzi, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. We'll definitely use this series as a reference when creating a website of my own. Thank you, Marcus. Quite a bit in the building a blog space that differs from just hacking out a simple app. Well, and that's so that's one of the things that I like to show, right? We could have gone about this very, very simple, but I want to help you guys. You know, if you want to go work for a large enterprise company, you're going to want to think about things like this, right? Like, you know, what happens when you go into a mobile space, right? How should mobile differ from larger spaces, right? And so figuring out what tools to use, and even, you know, if you want to go pure responsive, right? There's a jump there that we could worry about, and maybe we will, right? Because we could animate this jump, because people will see this jump on desktops, right? As they're resizing a screen, maybe they've got their window small and then they resize it and they see that jump. We can animate that jump and just make the experience better. But I definitely agree, Marcus, that there's a lot of things to think about when working with just websites in general, right? And everybody's at a different spot in their, you know, in their learning journey. I'm still learning quite a bit, and that's why I'm really appreciate people out in the community who help me. So I want to make sure that I'm being as helpful as possible too, and giving these tips that make it easy for people to see what's going on. So yeah, let's take a look at how we want to handle this. One last thing I want to do for right now, and we'll probably use this for unit testing anyway, or component testing, is we want to export a function, and we'll call it create test article. And this will return an article model. And then one thing I like to do is inside of here. Well, first let's, oh no, we'll do this, right? So inside of here, we can destructure this, right? We can destructure it down to title, content, date, But these are all required, but we don't want these to be required. And here, so this is going to be a partial of article model. So what we've done is we've created this function, and in this function, we can pass in a class that contains one or none of these, right? And we did that by passing in a default value of empty. So now the thing we can do is, yeah, we can just return this. There's one last thing. And I like to create test things like this when I create types, because it makes it easy for me when I go to do testing to get a test version of this. Because we could be doing test stuff, let's add Faker.js. And it's been a while since I've added Faker.js to anything, but I love Faker.js. Make sure you do the Faker.js and not the Faker. Faker may have been removed from NPM. I don't even know. I just search for Faker. The dev who originally, yeah, I can't even find the. So the old Faker, just make sure it is Faker.js. The old Faker was maintained by a dev who got angry and basically broke Faker for everybody, and so the community took it over. But we can just, and I love that they've got PNPM here. So here we will, and I'm really inconsistent about the Y's or the N's here. Need to be cognizant of time. We are probably going out to my in-laws. My mother-in-law is going through some chemotherapy, so we want to go out and visit and just help her out any way we can today. So I need to make sure that I end here on time. PNPM NX serve. So there we go. So now with Faker, we can import Faker. We can say, hey, Faker dot title. And I think we can import Faker. And one of the things that you can do to keep things small is if you don't need all of the Fakers, import it from a specific locale. And I don't think it's .title. It's Faker dot string dot, and I think I can do title here. No. We can go look at Faker.js, right? But there is some information in here about localization. So the default instance is English, but you can import like German or things like that if you need specific imports from the main package have a bug and always cause the entire Faker lib to be imported. Ooh. Yeah, and they're talking about this, right? That just make sure that you import it properly. And you can add, you know, locales to your faker with fallbacks and all of that stuff. But the default is the English locale, and then any other locale that you need, you can add. But we want to take a look here and see if we can find a title. That's a job title, so we can't. But what we can do is fake it. And we can say, hey, we want a sentence. Maybe it's just faker.sentence. No. Has that been removed? It's been a while since I've used faker, but you used to be able to, yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's under lorem. We can get lorem ipsum sentences. I don't want that. So if we look at string, maybe random. So here, oh, that's been deprecated. Interesting. Oh. So you can either use lorem or the word.sample and faker.word.words. Okay. So here we can just say we want faker.word.words. And then inside of here, we've got some options. We can specify the number of words. So if we go look at faker.word.words, so space separated random words, optional options object, or the number of words to return. I want to say, okay, so we can do a min and max. That's good. So we can say, hey, we want a minimum of 5 words and a max of like 20 words. And it doesn't recognize min. Why not? Ah, this needs to be an account object. There we go. What did it do? That was weird. There we go. So now our title is between 5 and 20 words. And our content, we're going to use lorem ipsum for this. So we're going to do faker.lorem, and we can do a paragraph here, and we can see that the option inside of here is sentence count, but we can do a min of like 10 words and a max of, I don't know, we'll do 40 words, right? So between 10 and 40 words. And here we also want to use faker. We can say faker.date. We can say recent. And inside of recent, we can say, hey, within the recent, I don't know, like 30 days, right? So within the past 30 days, it should generate this. So now we've got our create test article. Now we can come back to our main component And we can start doing some stuff with it, right? Right now it's static, but we can say, hey, component, or we can say, we want our article, const article equals, and here we can just say, create fake article. And if we call it just like this, it's going to just generate random articles for us, right? And so, oh, it's not doing anything because I didn't use the article in the template. You got to use the article in the template. And the other thing we want to do is let's wrap this in a signal. We're going to say that this is a signal, and the reason we want this to be a signal is eventually we're going to use signals anyway. Even though it's static now, we're eventually going to want it to be a signal. There we go. We've got a writable signal. One thing that I'm curious about, and I should probably talk to Chow. Oh, hey, TBD Gamer, welcome. And Formal Goose Foundation. I like that name. I'm doing well. Thank you guys for joining. But yeah, here with the signal, right? Eventually, we're going to use signals for the inputs and stuff. What I would like to understand is how do the analog files work with model inputs or signal inputs? And they may not yet because those are still in developer preview. But yeah, I would like to understand that a little bit better. One thing, Prettier still doesn't understand these files. That's fine. But here, now we can say, oh, one thing that we needed was an image. We'll do that later. But now we can get rid of this very, very long title, right? This incredibly stupid title. And we can just say that it is article dot title. And so there's our title. Here, we no longer need the BG secondary. Instead, we want a couple of things. We want, we want the article content, right? Is that what we called it in the article model? Yep, content. But just above that, let's just add an H, or, just add a horizontal rule, right? A horizontal rule. Is that HR? I don't remember. It's been a while since I've done one. And then here we can just do a span and add our date. Well, we won't. For now, let's just add class equals text dash. Is there a muted? So if we go look at Tailwind, and inside of here we search for muted. No. So let's go look at Daisy and search for muted. Let's look at our colors. So we've got backgrounds, primary, neutral, I think what we want is neutral dash content here. We can just say neutral dash content. And this is text dash neutral dash contents. And then we can say text dash what do we want to say? Like text size, but we can say text dash small, I think. And then inside of here, we can just, oh, and you know what I'm doing wrong? Those need to be references. There's the title. There's the content. And here we can add a break. And here it should say, like an HR, yep, nope. It's just an H. It's a horizontal rule. It's been so long since I've used it. Maybe, I think it's an HR. But here we now just want our article dot date. And eventually we're going to format this. Well, actually, we can pass it through the date pipe now. We'll leave it for now. And I did this backwards. It needs to be article.date. Date is not a function. Or date is not a signal. TBD Gamer, I'm making good progress on my Angular journey this past week. Wondered if I could ask some questions. Absolutely, ask questions about NGRX all you want. Is this like full NGRX or is this oh, and I've got to end soon. But yeah, go ahead and ask your NGRX questions. We'll take a look at them. Okay, so reference error. Create fake article. Oh yeah. That is true. We need to import this. Import. Yep. Article. .model. And it's not in data access. It is in. Why did it do this? /models. Article model. Create fake article. Oh, I called it create test article. Create test article. Create test article. There we go. One thing we can do, like, because we did the partial, we can do, hey, my main article, right? And that will add that as the title. So there we go. Interesting. If we go inspect this, so text neutral sets that color, but it's not much difference than the other color. Text font size small. But I'm curious about the paragraph itself. So the paragraph, it's a font size associated with it. Yeah. I don't know yet. I'm kind of looking for some advice on how to start. I have an API set up for writing data and now a GraphQL backend for query. I'm thinking I want to kind of use the store to hold data, and then when I update it, update my store and send through the API. and then refresh the store in the back end with the GraphQL. Am I thinking about this the right way? So if you go look at the GitHub Angular dynos, right? Oh, it's full stack dynos. So full stack dynos is almost exactly what you're describing. So if you come into the packages, and then the Angular dynos, and then the dynos GraphQL, right? We've got our services in here that actually interact with GraphQL, right? This is our generated GraphQL. So this is the stuff that comes from Apollo, but we've got a store that also wraps this, right? It's using a signal store, but it does a lot of the same stuff. And if you go backwards, we actually used a component store at first. So if you want to go back through the commits, let me give this to you. There are a couple of considerations to take. And so like with this add dyno store, inside of here, actually the edit is probably the better one to show. So Apollo GraphQL is pretty aggressive with its caching. And so inside of here, we're having to do some stuff with, and it might be in the service itself. So this service right here, if we go look, in this service, we're using the GraphQL, and we're using the mutate on the GraphQL. We have to add this update with the cache, and we have to evict the key because we updated those dinosaurs, and that forces GraphQL to go back and refetch, right? And this works. And I can send this over to you also. This absolutely works. It becomes a bit frustrating. What I probably should have been doing is using the Apollo client as the store for this application. And not trying to wrap it in like a component store or a signal store. So you can do it, but there will be some pain. And there will be some learning that needs to happen. So I highly recommend just going through and looking at like the history on these files. So you can see how we worked through problems and things. But these files wrap and you'll see I'm having to evict stuff from the cache. And learning that I needed to do this took some time, just because the GraphQL cache is pretty aggressive. I think you can turn it off. That may be the better way to do it. So you could totally wrap this. So the service communicates with GraphQL, right? And uses the generated GraphQL. And then your store will then use the service to communicate. So your store doesn't have to care about the underlying mechanism, right? So we could easily swap over to a REST-based service or something like that by swapping how the service works. So there is a good thing to be using a wrapper and then a store on top of that wrapper, because if you use just Apollo, then you're pretty much tying yourself to Apollo forever. So that store becomes a facade to the actual communication mechanism, right? But just be aware that when using GraphQL, you are going to run up against the cache. You could probably turn it off because you are doing caching yourself, right, in the store. So there are parts of NGRX you don't need to use or something. No, so NGRX is kind of layered, right? There are parts of NGRX that you probably don't need to know until you get to the problems that they solve. So NGRX store is a much bigger it's a much bigger way. It's the full Redux pattern is what NGRX store is. And I'm in an ad break, so hopefully you're seeing this. And the ad break will end here soon, but so in like 10 seconds, I'll finish answering your question, unless you can see this. But yeah, the NGRX store. Okay, we're back. So NGRX store is full Redux pattern, right? Where we have side effects, we have reducers, we have selectors. This is the full Redux pattern. When you're using something like component store or signal store, you're not using this full pattern. You probably don't need this full pattern because you don't need to abstract your actions away from your store. You probably don't need special reducers. You probably don't need unique selectors. They're probably specific to the store you're creating. When you're doing Redux pattern, you're solving bigger problems than most applications have. And so this is why I think NGRX gets a lot of negative publicity. Is because people are trying to apply it to places where it doesn't necessarily fit. So when I'm saying there's probably stuff you don't need, or whatever you heard, probably what I was referring to, and I'm entirely guessing here, right, is that the component store is a much simplified version of Redux. So you don't have effects. Well, you have effects, but you don't have actions, right? The actions are the functions that you call. You have reducers, kind of, but they're really called updaters. And so it becomes a much simpler pattern to follow. And it goes through in the NGRX site, it goes through and spells it out, and it's really good. This stuff is really, really good. I also, if we go medium.com, and I'm going to be looking at my stories really quick. Okay, it's fine. I could show this. I'm just always worried about what I'm going to show on stream, right? So this article is one of the very first articles I wrote. It's quite a few years old. I should probably go back and revisit it. But this article goes through kind of the natural progression that you'll follow as you go through application building, right? It goes through why you should consider NGRX store versus NGRX, and things like that. So go check it out. The NGRX site is also really, really good at showing, what the component store has versus, NGRX. So there's a lot of really good documentation out there that will show, how to handle stuff. So you probably don't need full NGRX store. The nice thing is that if you start with like component store or signal store, you can migrate to a full-blown store very, very easily. And one of my projects, I think it might be the Sudoku project, we actually use store and component store at the same time. Do I recommend signals? Absolutely. You should absolutely be looking at signals. Signals make template reactivity so much better. And so with Component Store, inside of Component Store, there are selectors. You know, you've got your selectors here. This is the select, but there's also a select signal. And I don't know. But yeah, see, even here they show you, hey, you can mix store with component store. Here we go, select signal. So select signal allows you to work with component store, which you've probably already got written, but you can select signals out, and those signals you can then use in your templates. I recommend anything you're going to use in your component store that you're going to display in a template, create a selector that uses select signal. Anything that you're going to chain through RxJS, use the regular select. And you know, if you want to do NGRX signals, it's really good also. So yeah, hard lesson, absolutely. You will absolutely learn some hard lessons along the way, and those hard lessons will make you a better dev. I'm certainly okay with learning as I go, but I definitely feel the application will benefit from using such. Absolutely, it will. I don't know if you remember what I'm doing, but I'm building an app. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I remember talking about that. Absolutely. And one of the things that starting out with a store right away will do is a lot of people, you know, when you learn Tour of Heroes puts a lot of state in the components, right? So the hero component has state in it. And that's a good way to learn, because you don't want to confuse people and cause you don't want to cause confusion, right? Well, why do I need a service, right? When you're teaching somebody something, you want to teach them the simplest way to do it, and then as they get better, you add more and more concepts. The unfortunate downside to that is a lot of people never move past that concept of putting state in the component. And then realizing that, hey, maybe my state and my business logic should live outside of my display, right? Things that are focused on display, they should live outside of my component. So those considerations are important to take. And using a store early on will get your state out of your signals or out of your components and into your services, where it belongs, right? Because you can unit test that much easier instead of having to try and fake button clicks and things like that. Yeah, but yeah, that should work well. But anyway, we can see that the main article's here, and when we look, we've got some overflow, right? One thing we could probably do. It's common is with this date, we could also do like, we could do text extra small, and then I think we can do italic. Yep. That's pretty common for like an article. And so if we go back, yeah. So now our date is a little bit smaller, and we can work on formatting this better. Like, I don't think people care about the actual time; they mostly just care about when it was written. But there we go, right? And things seem to be working fairly well. We do have a problem, and this isn't why I intentionally told it to write a bunch, right, of lorem ipsum, because I guess technically an abstract would never be this long, but it potentially could. So again, we need to look at truncating this. And you can see that our test gives us the ability to override the main article. We could also take this out. So this title right here, you can take it out, and now we'll just get a random title, which is fine with me. The other thing is this HR is good, but we could do class equals, and here we could do text dash primary, and then maybe do it like a 50%. I don't know. Just to make, oh. That's not changing the color on it. Interesting. We go inspect this. Our div. So it should be a bit lighter. I'm not sure why it isn't. Interesting. So tailwind HR color. Oh, it's divide. Is that what it is? Okay. So I need to use divide. Oh no, that's just for divs. Is there an HR in here? HR. I don't know. I've got to end. I'm over by just a little bit. But I need to end. Let me see. I'm building an agile. Makes sense. Thank you for the advice. Sorry to distract you from what you're doing. Dude, don't feel bad about distracting me. I'm here to help you guys, right? And what you're doing is important. And that blog's or not the blog, the agile platform is going to help people. So please feel free to interject and ask questions. You don't even need to ask if you can ask questions. Just ask me questions, right? If I don't want to answer the question, I'll ignore it until I'm going to answer it. But I will answer any questions you guys put in the chat. This is important to me that that I'm helping, as you guys attend the stream, that I'm helping you get better and solve issues that you're really coming up against. But I definitely need to end. Thank you guys, everybody, so much for showing up today. Thank you for the questions, and we will see you